Good evening, cult members, and welcome to Pop Culture Cult. I'm Sean.
I'm Janice.
And welcome to our spoiler review, discussion, reaction to episode 1 of Moon Knight, called The Goldfish Problem.
Yes, and there was a problem with Goldfish.
There's too many fins.
No, there's not enough fins.
There's not enough. No, there was too many.
He didn't have one on the side at all.
Oh, yeah, that's right. There was the Nemo.
He was like a little Nemo.
He had 2 tail fins, and this is very complicated stuff. We want to start off by saying we're going to do week-to-week reviews of and reactions to the episode as they come out. We watch them in the evening, so it'll be coming out at the evening of, not the morning of, because we're not staying up till midnight to watch it, then do a review and go to bed at 3.
We have to get up early to go to work.
Some of us actually have to work at 6 a.m. in the morning because we're dumb. So these will be coming out week to week. So please subscribe, follow us to get our reaction. Part 2 of this conversation, before we really get into the episode, is what we know of Moon Knight is what they've told us, that Marvel has told us as we get into the series.
Right. Personally, you mean?
Right.
Yes.
Right.
We know nothing about the comic at all.
I've read one of the runs of the comic. The problem with Moon Knight is that it's had several runs, several different iterations. That was a big word for Aunt Elmo. So I have a base knowledge just based off of everybody talking about the series going forward, like getting ready for it and stuff like that.
Right.
And so we're coming from it from the MCU, enjoyers of the MCU point of view, and going into that kind of conversation, the filmmaking process, the storytelling process, that kind of stuff. Yep. So if you're looking for deep dive, Easter egg hunting, new rock stars, heavy spoilers, they're going to be all over that a lot more than we are. Please come back and see us, and enjoy this process with us as we learn about Moon Knight and Mark Spector and Stephen Grant.
Stephen Strange. No,
Strange. That's not it. So with all that being said, let's get into the episode. Overall, what did you think of this episode?
I thought it was good. I didn't want it to be over, which is a good sign. I wanted to know more. I wanted it to be more. So we will. How many episodes is this?
I think it's 6. It's either 6 or 8.
Okay.
I think is what it is. I don't know for sure. I've heard it, and there was enough room in the Mind Palace. I had to delete something.
So, yes, I am excited for the next episode.
That's a good sign from both of us that we watch an episode and we're like, I want to binge this right now.
Yeah.
The Halo series, which we're going to go watch the second episode as soon as we're done here, is that same kind of thing.
Yeah.
And Disney is really good about just teasing us with the tip. But yeah, I agree. I really want to watch more, and I really like what they've done in the process of telling this story of somebody with identity they call it identity disassociation. I can't. That's a bigger word for Elmo. I can't say.
Too many S's.
But Moon Knight as a character is very interesting from what I've learned, and telling this kind of horror-based kind of idea of storytelling within Disney Plus, but also within the MCU. We really haven't dealt with the dark magic stuff that is Blade and the Black Knight and Moon Knight and Ghost Rider, which is stuff that they're really setting up for this.
Yeah.
And so I'm really excited about that.
There was an actual S-bomb in this.
Yeah. Did he say it or did he just mouth it?
I think he said it. I mean, in my brain, I heard him say it.
In my brain, I heard him say it too, but then there were logs falling, so I don't know if it was, and then blah, 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 blah. But with the adding of the Netflix Defenders verse,
right,
and they are very much adult and darker and dark in their storytelling. So I'm excited from my point of view of storytelling. You could tell all different versions of the Marvel Cinematic Universe in this kind of way of doing it. You can do. Right. You could do the fun, campy Guardians, Ant-Man kind of thing. You tell a serious spy drama with like Civil War and Black Widow. So I for a genre of comic book shows and movies, having these different kind of versions is going to make you want to come back to it more and more and more. So
Right.
I'm here for the darker version of the MCU.
Yeah, it's not something I was like necessarily missing. I mean, I like all the Avengers stuff for what it is,
Right.
but yeah, something different is good.
Yeah, I'm totally there for it. So this episode, I found very interesting. There's several different points. The way we usually do our reviews is we kind of go point to point and whatever, but then it ends up being all over the map. And so with this episode, I really want to talk about the beginning
Okay,
to start off with, because that's where you start, is in the beginning. And
that's a very good place to start.
usually, sometimes you start at the end and then work your way back, which we probably will end up doing that in the show at some point in time. But the very first images we get are of Ethan Hawke's Arthur Howell.
Harrow.
Harrow.
It's
Arthur.
tiny.
It's tiny and it's the same color as the page. I find it very interesting to start with who's going to feel like he's going to be the protagonist of the series, not necessarily the villain, but the protagonist. It's interesting starting with him and showing his zealotry.
Yeah, is that a word? Sure, I'll go with it.
I just
Zealotness,
zealotness, zealotousness. But him kind of obsessing over drinking the water and like putting the towel down and all that stuff. I thought that was very interesting. He's very controlled and purposeful with his movements and what he's doing, and then he breaks the glass and puts them in his shoes.
Yeah, I can. It's kind of ritualistic. Like he was doing this little ritual before he did that. That was a tough scene to watch.
Yeah.
Nope.
And to piggyback that scene with later in the Alps,
Austria
village, whatever, where he is like the prophet, essentially. Like he's a prophet kind of character.
Yeah.
And him using the cane and showing like he's got supernatural abilities of being able to read, or at least has an entity in him.
That's where I was thinking that
yeah.
he's also got an entity, but he's kind of just given himself over to it because of his zealotriness. Ness. That he just, and maybe that was part of that ritual that he was doing, was just kind of allowing it in, or
pain limits your ability to fight back on certain levels,
right?
kind of
thing. Yeah, maybe.
But him with the scales of justice on his arm and the cane rocking back and forth in Volunteer's arms, and then the first man is a good man, and so he's saved, and then he older lady comes up, and she does not pass the scales, and he sucks her life force out of her.
Yeah.
Like, that's like, oh, okay, yeah. I love the introduction of him as this kind of zealot, kind of prophet kind of person, but then hinting at his supernatural abilities as you go along in the show.
Right. Or the entity that occupies him.
Right.
As that. Which, I mean, obviously the entity that occupies Steven has supernatural abilities as well. I mean, it makes sense that that's what's going on there.
Yeah, I just we have to talk about the fact that Ethan Hawke for a long time was very anti MCU blockbuster kind of. And I won't say anti. He has been very vocal about how it's taking away from the smaller movies, that a lot of studios are trying to make the big blockbusters. And then he turns around and in this story, is playing a character that we've seen him kind of play before, but in a different shell. And I'm really kind of happy that he's here because he's a great actor.
Yeah.
And I actually
Yeah.
do like him as a person. At least from, I haven't had beers with him or anything like that, but from the things
They're
I've seen.
buds.
But he's, Oscar Isaac is an actual executive producer on the show, and he went to Ethan and said, I want you to play this character.
Yeah.
And Ethan said yes once he kind of learned about what the show was going to be about. So that is exciting to me that he found something in something he didn't like that he wants to jump in. And
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, I mean, not to go too deep down that rabbit hole, but I really feel like the Marvel movies have brought people back to the movie theater, and then they're like, oh, you're sitting there and you're watching the previews and you're like, oh, that looks interesting. And it is a smaller movie. Like
Yeah.
A24 has just got a ton of really good stuff, and they're independent and
they're
smaller,
$10 million budgets or $8 million budgets, and they're
and then
killing it with great movies.
people are like, oh, when the Oscars happen, they're like, I saw that movie.
We saw Lost City with Sandra Bullock and Channing Tatum and stuff, and that doesn't have a huge budget to it.
Yeah.
And Daniel Radcliffe, and that doesn't have a huge budget to it, but that movie did really well last weekend. Star power helps, but that
Yeah.
mid-budget rom-com is kind of
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that PR around it, it's not a big, opening man's Chinese theater kind of, thing.
No.
So people went to that movie because they saw the previews for
yeah,
it.
yeah, and so I understand Ethan's point of view of we're missing out on that mid-budget, small-budget movie, but that he takes a role like this means that he found something there that he can chew into, and
Yeah.
I'm excited for that kind of thought process and that kind of thing.
And I mean, in theory, this isn't a movie. It's
That's
limited series. Is it gonna?
I have only heard that it's whatever the 6-8 episodes.
Okay, which is a typical Disney thing. They'll wait until the end and see how well it's received, and if it's received well, then they'll go.
The only
we're gonna
one
do another
I've
one."
heard for certain before the series was done that they were going to do a season 2 was Loki.
Yeah, yeah, but
and What If?
yeah,
What
but
If
both
too.
of those were towards the end.
Yes.
It wasn't like before it ever
Yes.
came out that we
Yes.
knew that there was going to be multiple.
And the news that came out this week that everybody was kind of trying to pile on. There's not going to be season 2 of WandaVision, and again, that story was done.
Yeah.
It's done.
What are you gonna?
But Captain Winter Soldier, or Captain America and Bucky, Captain Falcon and the One-Armed Man, should get a second season. And it's going to get a movie, but it should get a second
Yeah,
season.
yeah.
I really like that Marvel is like, okay, this is the story we're telling for now. We have plans on the road. We'll get to that.
If it's well received,
if
and if
well
it's not
received,
well
yeah.
received, then they can go,
Yeah.
we tried, and
One of the reasons we're talking about this so much is because Oscar Isaac is also somebody who, in the past, he was Poe, and I love Poe Dameron. I love him as Poe Dameron. I love the character of Poe. I actually want an orange Jeep with black accents, that the license plate that says Black One, because that's his call sign. And I actually have the Poe Dameron X-wing down there, the black and orange one. I really
Nerd.
Anyways, he has said that he'll come back to Star Wars if he needs a second house. He's kind of done with the Star Wars thing, which is great job, fans. But him coming into a character like this of Mark Spector, of Moon Knight, of Mr. Knight, of Steven, of that character, makes me excited of somebody of his acting caliber, like Ethan Hawke, great, amazing, top-tier actor who has found something in a character inside a comic book universe that he really is attracted to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so when they announced him as Mark Spector, I was excited for what this could be going forward. And this episode shows you exactly why he was the right choice. Him playing the passive, kind of weird, kind of good guy off-centered Stephen working at the gift shop at the Natural History Museum in London.
Yeah.
The British Museum. It's the British Museum.
Yes, British Museum.
I found that that nerdiness, uncomfortableness, closed, disheveled. He can do that and then turn around and be a badass that is Mark Spector.
Yeah.
The special ops guy and stuff like that. And that's why you hire somebody like this.
Yep. I think he does a good job. I was trying to think of if we've seen him in something where he kind of does that nerdy thing, but
Annihilation, he kind of plays a very different kind of person. I'm trying to think of what else we've seen
like
him in.
Ex Machina, he's not.
He's unhinged in Ex Machina.
Yeah.
I have IMDb up, and so let's see what IMDb says. Ex Machina, most violent year. Oh well,
little movie called Dune.
Dune. We're gonna get canceled for that. You forgot about Dune, you ding dongs.
I didn't forget about Dune. He just the Stephen character is not anywhere near the character that he
that's
plays
very
in.
true. That's very true.
Yeah.
With the idea of them showing the beginning with Ethan Hawke's character of Arthur, they make a point of turning around and showing of Stephen and his ritual of waking up, of untying himself from the bed, checking the sand to see if there's any footsteps, taking the tape off the door, unlocking all the locks, because when you have identity, when you're Tyler Durden,
disassociation,
the other person takes over, and so you wake up days later, and so him like making a point of locking him into his room and locking to his is a really good visual storytelling of you don't have to do like you don't have to explain it all. You're just showing it all.
Yeah. But I thought it was funny because as he's undoing or checking or whatever, I'm like, you know this stuff. You know that you're chained to the bed. You know that there's sand around it. You know you put tape on the door. So the other you knows it too.
Right.
So, and you know how to redo it every night. So they would know how to redo it every, like, what have you been, inhabited by an alien that doesn't understand?
I think Stephen very much is more of the, I have night terrors, and so
he thinks he's sleepwalking.
Yeah.
He doesn't think that something is actually happening until it stops basically happening at night, and it just starts happening.
The whole him waking up in the Alps, in the Austrian village in the Alps, and he broke his jaw.
Yeah.
His jaw is broken. It's bent in a direction that's not supposed to be. So Khonshu, I think, is the one who like helps put that all back together, right? Like kind of heals him or whatever.
Oh yeah.
But him obviously doing stuff as Mark Spector, and then wakes up because he jumped out of a window and banged his head.
Yeah.
And he wakes up as Steven. And Steven trying to fumble his way through what's going on.
Yeah.
And then the whole back and forth of the chase. The scarab is going to be something that's going to be the MacGuffin going forward.
Yeah.
That he has.
But the chase is in a Bavarian donut or a cupcake.
So good.
He goes away and he comes back and the whole windshield's gone, but the windshield wipers are going.
He throws the gun like, and Khonshu's in the background. Did you just throw the gun? And he's still like, what? Who is talking? But I like that we spent a whole episode with Steven and him not knowing. He doesn't know what's going on, and it's not until the final scene when he's going to leave the museum, and Anubis,
maybe
a dog, some Egyptian dog or whatever, goes to attack him in the museum. I want to keep saying prison. That's not right.
It's a prison for art.
It's a prison for art. It is. And the Acropolis. The idea of him being Stephen being chased and him not being able to handle it, and him going to the bathroom, and Mark finally connecting with him and saying, like, because earlier Mark was like, "Don't look, don't look, don't look," and it was kind of throwing his like there's been an agreement between Mark and Khonshu that we kind of just let the idiot that Khonshu keeps calling him.
Right.
Oh, the idiot's in charge again. Who's talking? But like the two of them have an agreement that Steven is like left in the dark, right?
Yeah,
And whatever. And so when Mark understands that it's time for him to take over, that him and Khonshu need to take over, that I love that scene. I love that scene of here's the proper introduction of what you're getting.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. I want to watch more. I want to see more.
Right.
I want to learn more.
A couple of things I'm going to talk about, and we'll be out of here. Music choices. All the songs are like about waking up or your waking self or all that kind of stuff. I thought all the music choices were really interesting. Very jarring. At times on purpose. That I'm not saying that's a bad thing. That they're supposed to be jarring on purpose.
It's the editing we notice like a lot of time, and actually throughout a lot of it, when kind of when Steven is kind of starting to understand that he's not maybe alone in his own head,
right?
That like you only see parts of his face. They never, they don't show his face full on. They show the side, and then they show his reflection. And
I love the use of the reflections.
Yeah. And so then you're always watching the reflection to see if it's doing something different than he is. Sometimes it is, and sometimes it isn't.
Yeah.
You're like, so you're always paying attention to that. There was a lot of paying attention to the background, the other stuff, like in the bathroom, the reflections, and then the hieroglyphs started to appear on the walls as the others came out. The elevator, there was the reflection in the mirror in the elevator, and I couldn't stop. Like the whole scene had moved on to him talking to the little old lady, and I was still focused on the reflection because it didn't make sense. Like it never would have worked like that, because he turned around and looked at himself, looking at himself. He would have had to have a mirror behind him to have done that, except it was the doors. So I just kept sitting there thinking, wait, what happened?
They kind of use that trick in the bathroom where they go in and the bathroom has got mirrors on either side, and so there's infinite Stevens
reflections,
and then when Mark starts talking to him, all the reflections of Mark's side go away. Because Mark's looking at Steven, and then they pan the camera around and show the profile when Steven finally just allows himself to let Mark in. And all the reflections of Steven are in there. So I love that, like, kind of, again, show, don't tell kind of storytelling, where when Mark is in the room, he is the dominant person and all the reflections go away. And I also, with the elevator scene, I need to go back and watch it, because I'm sure there's like, it says like Ditko and Lee and stuff like
I couldn't figure out. There was like a little bit of graffiti down here, but I don't. People's signatures generally, it's hard to tell what they actually say, and I don't know what their signatures look like to be able to, like, there was something, but I don't.
I'm only using Ditko and Stanley as a reference because they use that in No Way Home, and so the creators always show up in some kind of version, the street signs in Deadpool, and
the costume design, like Disney likes to do the costume designers and the stunt coordinators and whatever. They'll put
the
their
set
names
designers are really good about sneaking their name or something like that, and I'm sure there's like an Egyptian name of the set designer in there, or whatever. I like the cinematography, the music, like the editing and stuff like that. Like we said, we want more.
We've been in that gift shop, by the way.
We've been in that gift shop.
I was like, we were there. I looked at like a book.
We went through the Egyptian wing really quick.
Because it was towards the end of the day. We were tired
and
of
Egyptian
all the
stuff isn't
children.
really like our kind of thing, so It was cool to look at, but I'm not going to spend a ton of time looking at Egyptian
Yeah,
stuff.
I don't know a ton of the history.
The only other thing I want to talk about is the gift shop manager is the meanest villain since the guy who ran Ford Racing in Ford versus Ferrari. I mean, she can die in a grease fire. You don't treat people with mental issues that way. You just don't do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the point. I know, but still.
Yeah, you want to punch her in the face.
You want to punch her in the face.
Definitely.
My only question, and maybe you guys can tell us in the comments, please be nice. It's a requirement around here. Is the so the Natural History Museum and the British Museum are two different museums.
Yeah.
However, as we sit, I think time-wise right now, Cersei is working at the British Museum,
yep.
and he's working at the Natural History Museum. So there's two different the Black Knight is also working at one of the museums in London too.
Okay.
So I don't know what the timetable is. Timetable is a big deal right now within the MCU because they're like 2025 in No Way Home. But Eternals is like 2023, and so there's like some storytelling kind of points, like time wise. So
and then the British Museum is the time? I don't. What are they calling it in Strange? But I don't know that it's necessarily the British Museum, but it is the British Museum.
It's the British Museum physically.
Yeah.
But whatever that. Where the
room
Illuminati is meeting. I'm just going to say it's the Illuminati until I'm told differently. It's the Illuminati.
Yeah.
But the actual them walking through with the Ultron drones, that's the British Museum. They actually that whole room is we've been in that room. It's
they just
fucking
CGI'd
amazing.
The background with the staircase and stuff.
But they have to address that, I think, at some point in time, either in a conversation or a Easter egg thing or whatever. They have to talk about that Cersei is there and Mark is doing stuff. So all of this is directly connected because we have that scene at the end of Eternals with how come I cannot think of his name?
Kit Harington?
It's Kit Harington. The character's name, I cannot think of the character's name other than the Black Knight. But him and Blade are there. Moon Knight. So we could get Blade and Black Knight in this series.
Yeah.
And this could be a really interesting point to introduce Ghost Rider because you're dealing with that kind of.
But he's American, not British. Right.
Right, but so he's a demon. He can go wherever he wants. He can go in the afterlife. So
not with a motorcycle. You have to put it on a ship, on a boat. You can't ride a motorcycle to the UK.
Okay, when you're a demon, you can go into hell. It is a direct corridor, like the London Underground from the States to the island. So, anything else you want to talk about in this episode?
No, I think we covered.
I think we covered everything. So let us know what you thought of this episode and our discussion, reaction, review of it. And like we said, we're gonna do these every week. They probably won't be this long, but we had to do some introduction stuff for those who new around here. Please be nice in the comments. Like I said, like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications as we upload stuff all the time, and trailer reactions, book reviews, and we will be going to Star Wars Celebration, so we'll be doing all kinds of stuff there. So all the links for social media is in the description down below too. So next time, which will be probably next Wednesday, we will see you then.
Well, we're gonna go see a movie tomorrow.
Oh, we're gonna see a Morbius tomorrow, which is
so we'll have that.
All that. So. Just hit the bell and you'll see it when it shows up. That's how it works. And until next time, cult members, good afternoon, good evening, and good night now.